Our reading this morning is entitled, "We Were Made for These Times" by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It's a little longer than our usual readings, but you're going to love these words, I know. Clarissa is an American poet, a post-trauma specialist, and author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. My friends, do not lose heart. We were made for these times. I have heard from so many recently who are deeply and properly bewildered. They are concerned about the state of affairs in our world now. You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially, do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is that we were made for these times. Yes, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I grew up on the Great Lakes, she writes, and recognize a seaworthy vessel when I see one. Regarding awakened souls, there have never been more able vessels in the waters than there are right now across the world. And they are fully provisioned and able to signal one another as never before in the history of humankind. Look out over the prow. There are millions of boats of righteous souls on the waters with you. Even though your veneers may shiver from every wave in this stormy royal, I assure you that the long timbers composing your prow and rudder come from a greater forest. That long-grained lumber is known to withstand storms, to hold together, to hold its own, and to advance regardless. In any dark time, there is a tendency to veer toward fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Do not focus on that. There is a tendency, too, to fall into being weakened by dwelling on what is outside your reach, by what cannot yet be. Do not focus there. That is spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who hail us, love us, and guide us, and we will know them when they appear. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, the second, or the 100th gale. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things you can do. There will always be times when you feel discouraged. I too have felt despair many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. It is not allowed to eat from my plate. The reason is this. In my uttermost bones, I know something, as you do. It is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good deeds we do are not ours. They are the words and deeds of the one who brought us here. In that spirit, I hope you will write this on your wall. When a great ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe. There can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. There's an Albert Schweitzer quote that we often use as a chalice lighting on Sunday mornings. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. These feel like dark times we are living in. A time of violence and uncertainty, time of divisions and ramped up political rhetoric. Our collective hearts are broken. We mourn for the violence experienced all around the world this month. I was up here just 2 weeks ago addressing the deaths of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling and the murder of the police officers in Dallas. But since then, the tragedies have not stopped coming at us. 3 more police officers killed in Baton Rouge. A black man shot while lying on the ground with his hands in the air, trying to protect his autistic client. The terrible incident in Nice on Bastille Day. Baghdad bombings, all the violence and political turmoil in Turkey, the shootings in Munich on Friday, the bombing in Kabul yesterday. I'd say these are dark times. And as we are assaulted again and again by bad news, our inner lights are flickering with exhaustion. It's a little jarring to live in vacation land when the world seems to be such a train wreck all around us. The sounds of vacationers reveling and the beauty of a Cape Cod summer are held in tension with the cruelty and grief of national and world events. Holding both is disorienting. I find myself not wanting to turn on the news or read the paper, but then I feel pulled in at the same time, like we are at some kind of crisis point. And if I close my eyes and fall asleep here, I will be on the wrong side of history. There's a glimmer of hope in the mix. Like maybe things are getting so bad right before they get better. that there is a movement of peace and justice about to be birthed that is big enough to change things. So wrestling with this mix of darkness and small glimmerings of hope this week, and not knowing just quite what to do with it all, I've turned to a practice that is at all of our disposal in the face of dark times. I look to the past and remember what has worked before. What has brought our country out of dark times in days gone by? What has brought me out of dark times in my own personal life? It helps us to think about past resiliency, because if it has worked in the past, maybe it will work again. Even if the same course of events aren't repeated, remembering those dark times and what got us out of them is a powerful reminder that light does return, that dark times don't last forever. So that is going to be our focus today, not on the national scale, but on the personal scale, taking our own lives as our spiritual text. Think of it as a spiritual practice, the remembering of times when our own light went out or was in danger of going out and was rekindled by a spark from another. What does that rekindling look like? Remember, any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this suffering world, will help immensely. It can be as small as a smile from a stranger. It can be a friend reaching out when they are worried about us. It can be a friend or family member writing us a letter, or taking the day off to be with us, or giving us an incredibly thoughtful gift. It can be someone forcing us to go to a party when we insist that we would rather stay home alone and be miserable. It could be watching children play, holding a baby. Thank you for bringing a baby. It was really perfect. Seeing the world through a child's eyes again. It can be a partner staying by our side through depression or illness, a steadfast presence. It can be a coworker leaving a small gift on our desk when they can see that we are sad. Most recently, I've realized that it can be witnessing someone being their full and authentic self in the world. Let me tell you about who is rekindling my light right now. It's my friend Kathy Ann's husband, Brian. I can't remember how many years ago now it was that I offered a reading at Kathy Ann and Brian's wedding. But since then, they have moved around the country a bit because of Brian's career. He's a doctor, a surgeon, actually, and an important detail to share for this story is that Brian is a black surgeon. You might have actually seen him on television lately or heard him on National Public Radio. You see, when those police officers were shot in Dallas, it was Brian who was heading up the ER that night. He wasn't meant to be working that shift, but he had switched with someone. So he was the trauma surgeon on duty when the police officers were brought in. Brian is still haunted by the lives he could not save that night, and by the terrible task of having to inform their families. But in the aftermath of that tragedy, he has found his voice, and the world has given him a microphone. And he has been able to speak about his experiences in tearful and meaningful words. And he is my hope right now. When those policemen came into Brian's operating room, their lives were in his hands. But when he leaves the hospital, when he's not wearing his white coat His life is in the hands of the policemen he encounters, and he fears them. He respects them and is grateful for their service and sacrifices. But as a black man, he's also afraid. On television, I watched Brian explain that when he goes out with his 5-year-old daughter and they see men and women in uniform eating at a restaurant, he picks up their tab, or he'll buy an officer an ice cream cone. He says he does that not only because he wants the policeman to encounter a black man who shows appreciation for their service, but also so that his daughter will see these positive encounters also, so that she will grow up to see the police as helpers and heroes, and not as something to be feared, because he does not want his daughter to inherit the fear that he goes through. It's a heavy burden for him. And so has being silent about this for so long, silent about his dual worlds, a respected doctor, surgeon, and teacher, and a man who fears walking the streets because of the color of his skin. I've not seen Brian cry before. Heck, I think his wife can count on one hand the number of times she's seen him cry. But the tears were flowing this week as he finally found a way to share his message with the world and his plea for peace. When asked what message he had to give the world, Brian said, "We are all in this together. We are all connected. All this violence, all this hatred, all these disagreements, it impacts us all, whether you realize it or not. This is not the kind of world we want to leave for our children. Something has to be done." These are dark times, but watching Brian on the national stage being so brave, so truthful and honest, so vulnerable, but also so hopeful that the world can be better for his daughter, all I could think was, bright soul on deck. That has brought light to my darkness and rekindled hope and commitment within me. I can tell that Brian himself is going through a dark night of the soul. But I also know that people are reaching out, friends and family and strangers, and the President of the United States. That's right, Kathy Ann and Brian got to meet President Obama last week. So maybe some of these encounters, and knowing that his small family is doing their part to change the world, maybe that will rekindle Brian's light too. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, build signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others. Both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Although I don't know all of your life stories and backgrounds, I do know that you have all been through hard times, that you have all felt the crushing weight of despair, that you have known sadness and have struggled to find joy. And I know that there have been people and programs and communities that have helped you through those times. Friends and family and strangers and professionals that have turned things around for you in small and big ways. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Although it's not easy, I want to invite you now to recall a dark time in your past. You are in safe space here, and we won't dwell for too long on these memories. But if you're willing to revisit those memories for just a minute, please think on this: a time in your life when you felt your own light going out. Maybe you were depressed or struggling with addiction. Maybe a loved one had died or you lost your job. Maybe it was a breakup or a crisis of faith. I want you to think briefly of a time like that and how you were feeling. And then I want you to call to mind someone or someones who reached out to you during that time, someone who made a difference. I want you to call to mind those people who helped to rekindle your flame, who offered you kindness and hope. If you want to, you can close your eyes if it helps you to bring that person or those people to mind. Take a moment to recall what that was like, what it looked like, how it felt. Who was there? Who was helping? What did they do that helped to bring that spark back to your life and into your heart? Hold them in your mind for a minute. Hold them in the light of gratitude. You can open your eyes. At our talk soup this afternoon, we are going to have the opportunity to share some of these stories with each other at our tables as we create a vessel to hold our light. We will be making chalices downstairs today and sharing stories of past resiliency. I hope you can join us. You're all invited to stay for lunch and crafting and getting to know each other. And of course, the flip side of acknowledging that our own despair can be transformed into hope by the hand of a friend is that we also can offer the hand that brings hope to another. We also can be the stranger that smiles at the passerby with tears in their eyes, or leaves an anonymous note of encouragement on someone's door. We also can be the friend or family member who takes time out of what we had planned to do to stop and sit with someone who is sad. We also can be the person who is brave enough to share our own light fully with the world, speak our own truth in a way that spreads light to others. It's a great responsibility, one we must not take lightly. And if that scares you, friends, do not lose heart. We were made for these times. Amen, and blessed be.